Welcome to another episode of An Extraordinary Take, where we share extraordinary ideas and visions with extraordinary people. My name is Sibonisile Ngubane-Khosa, and I'm so excited that you've taken the time to join me as we learn and grow together. Let's get into it, shall we? Hello, everybody. Welcome to An Extraordinary Take, where we share extraordinary ideas and visions with extraordinary people. Today I am joined by someone who, when I think people who've been listening to this podcast now know I never finish my sentences. It's a thing. I have a thought and then I have another thought, and then anyway. But when I initially started the podcast, or when I was thinking of starting the podcast, which was a long time ago, I made a list of names of people that I wanted to interview, and it was a very extensive list. But I just went dream big. This is what it's gonna look like. And you were on that list. It's from probably 3 years ago. If not 3 years ago. So this means so much to me that you could take the time to come and do this and make my dream come true. So the person that I am speaking to is Mutle Mothibe. Mutle Mothibe is a poet. I mean, people who are in the poetry space, there's no one that doesn't know you, because you've been a poet for 50 years, and just an overall incredible creative who has inspired so many with his work. He's also a teacher of poetry to some degree. And you worked a lot with Word and Sound.
Yes, I did.
Still do? Where Word and Sound is a great platform for artists. It's done an incredible job in equipping artists and growing them, even making them go international, etc. But I'm not here to speak to you about your poetry today. Are you still writing?
Yeah, I still do gigs.
I mean, yes, I did see a show. But how's that been? How long has it been now?
I think
52.
I'm not that old.
Yeah, this is one of those people. You are the Pharrell.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Pharrell is ancient, but looks like a child. And there's witchcraft things there. But anyway.
Look, I've been doing, I think, 20 odd years now. I think I can safely say. But I still do perform. I still do corporates and voiceover work, but also I still write. I'm actually now in the process of creating a poetry movement in Naval. So I'm just always trying to create spaces for people, because we didn't have that when we were growing up. So if I can give back, that'll be great.
What made you why have you never stopped? That's a weird question.
It's a sensible one, but I don't know how to. I think it's the best form of expression I have. And also it's one of the rare times someone is not waiting for their turn to respond. So when I'm writing, this page is not the point I was trying to make is, So I think that's one of the reasons I really, really love it. It's one of the spaces that I know it allows me room to just purge, and that's necessary for my kind of
Fair
brain.
Enough. Yeah, even now I'm trying to think of how to respond. So I get what you mean.
Exactly.
We're not good listeners as people sometimes. You're a very good listener, but most people, I think you are. Someone said I'm a great listener one time, but I don't think they knew me very well.
Was it in passing? Maybe she was distracted. I was thinking of something else.
No, they are actually watching the podcast, and they were saying, I could never do what you do, because you need to have patience to listen to someone finish their thoughts. I'm always like, no, what you're saying makes no sense. So she's like, you're a very good listener. I'm like, I think it's more tact and just trying to be a proper person, but I don't know. Maybe not. But anyway, the reason why I wanted to speak to you today, one of the first episodes I did for An Extraordinary Take was an episode on the mother-daughter relationship and how complex it can be. And how much it informs so much of like how women show up in the world. So much of it is reflective on how they were mothered and the role that their mothers had in their lives. And it was such an interesting one, and the stories that came out of that were just tragic, heartwarming, all kinds of things. And it was just around like the mother wound. But I have also always been very fascinated by the role of fathers in the lives of their kids, even though my own experience is kind of all over the place. But I do think that it's similar, just as much as I think we put obviously a big role on the mother sort of way, or the mother aspect of things, of like how your mom was, etc. And then for the most part we just say fathers are absent. So you know, we can't even have that conversation. My father, who, it's become like a joke type of thing. But you were such an interesting case study, I guess, of fathering for me, in that I had never met anyone as intentional about it as you were, which is, it shouldn't be the case, but I really hadn't. And what I mean by that is just like, I remember having a conversation with you and you were telling me like you had done some research around how many times a child should be touched. Just like how many times it should have physical touch in order for them to feel safe, you know? And so there was all of this work that it felt like you had done in preparation to being a father, but also even on the journey of being a father, where you were constantly figuring out how to do it the best way possible, and not even letting the confines of what society says fatherhood should look like kind of limit the way that you showed up. So what informed your decision to father the way that you father?
I think what informed it is my approach to life in general has always been from a creative perspective.
Okay.
Right? And I think in order for me to create something, I need to do research. That's always been, you know, for me to know how the best way to create this table, I would need to know what sort of wood are we using, what sort of metal are we using. So generally my brain is wired like that. So by the time I came to my kids, I started seeing them as like works of art. So how is it that I'm going to be modeling these works of art the best way that I know how to? So I would then, I think obviously the best way to learn about anything is to, firstly, yes, we can do the skeletal work of getting research done, but it can only carry me so far. I need to learn from this specific person that I'm actually taking care of. So then I was lucky to be working from home, to be an artist at the time. So I got to have contact with my kids from day one. So every single one, I've got 3 kids, and for their first 7 years, I can confidently say I took care of them the majority of the time. So I was bathing, I was changing nappies. So you get to learn the rhythm of them. So their evolution is something that is informed by how it is they literally were presented into your arms as like just like goo goo gagas that don't know what to say. But also then you start realizing that there's different cries for when it's nappy changing versus when I'm hungry versus when I'm agitated versus when I need burping. So you start, it's a building that you're actually doing around this specific person, like a Russian doll. You know, like the more you take off the doll, the more you keep finding little layers inside of it, you know? So I think that's what always informed me, is like I came at it creatively, and it's been an amazing journey ever since. And also it's great because they're 5 years apart. So there's things that maybe my first son, I can definitely say I was touch and go. It was feeling in the dark.
Yeah.
But with my daughter, then there was a lot more of a relaxed approach. We could let her adventure out a bit more without being too cautious, without being too, cuddly. And you can see even in the way she presents, she's a lot more confident versus my first. My last son, he's just a whirlwind because I'm like, no, you've got this, because I know, I have seen with the others how it is that you can expand and how it is that you can venture out into the world. So I think I came at it very creatively and also like a student. I think I'm always at my kids' feet learning, what do you respond to? And I ask them from time to time, what would you like us to do more of? And their answers have always been different. And I apply to every single one of them what it is they require.
And what was so I'm not interested in more your background. So what was your experience, one, of being a son and being fathered? And how much of that did you bring in or not want to bring in into you being a father yourself?
Look, I think I learned my dad passed away. I think I need to make that distinction in my head.
Okay.
Because there's a difference between father and dad.
Okay. Wait, what's the difference for you?
I think father is the person who was involved in your conception. Okay. And dad is the person who took care of you.
Sure.
And I have two people.
Okay.
So I don't necessarily feel that dad is a term I can use towards my father because he wasn't there. But dad, the person who brought me up, is the person that I can definitely be like, this man showed up, but what I think my experience of my dad was of someone who, because I studied him also looking at my grandfather. Because granddad was very stern, emotionally unavailable, worked at a factory, got laid off, and then, stayed the rest of his life at home. And I thought of what did he receive from his father, and then it was this thing of investigating what it is I could expect of my dad from that angle. So I could not expect my dad to be a hugging, loving, you are such a great son. Well, but it didn't take away from the fact that his understanding of love was provision.
Okay.
And he was an amazing provider. And at home, we had everything that we needed. There was a roof over our heads. The school fees were paid. And this was his way of taking care of us, right? And I think a lot of times, like I always say, that we tend to dismiss what our fathers, especially fathers from 60s, they didn't have the tools that we have of like emotional intelligence and 5 love languages. They didn't have that. They didn't have the internet easily accessible for them to use or describe these tools the way we describe love today. So I looked at him from that perspective and I think he was an amazing father. And with him, it looked instinctual that you need to take care of your kids. It wasn't like a decision that he needed to be, influenced into or cornered into,
coerced.
Maintain your kid. No, he was just like, what do we need to do? So my parents split up when I was 11. So from there also, I saw how he navigated that space as well. At no point was he, I can't.
We're not together anymore.
Figure it out. He was very, very much involved. And that's what I think for me made me understand, like, presence overrides everything, like even when you don't have, but are you there? Are you showing up for these kids? And then obviously then I was lucky to be born internet world and started researching, started learning the best ways in which for me I can reach these kids, and that's how I got here. But I think he was an amazing, amazing, amazing man.
At what point though, because I don't think that a lot of people make that distinction. I think it's often when you've had like a lot of time and you've kind of dealt with like a lot of pain and now you're at a point of trying to understand where the other person comes from in terms of the parent. So at what point does it happen for you where you look at your father through the lens of your grandfather and what he was able to get? Is that something that I don't imagine it's something that you always did.
No, it definitely happened after he passed away. Yeah, because then you start dissecting, what is it that I've lost? So now I'm like, okay, what am I not getting anymore? So then I started researching of what am I missing? What am I getting from my mother? And then also you start seeing then these father figures then come into your life. My uncle came into my life and he was very, very present. And I started also seeing him a lot more accentuated, because I'm like, oh man, this is the sort of figure that I can look towards when it comes to navigating male things that I'm going to be meeting in life. There's only so far he could also carry me. And then I was like, books.
Okay.
Books have been like my saving grace. Okay. I read. Yeah.
Do you consider yourself an exception when it comes to the way that you father? Because I do, right? So like and that's not to say my experience is the only experience, but I think when I look at society as a whole and I kind of look at the rhetoric that's out there, like just how people communicate when it comes to their fathers, what the jokes that we make around fathers, the common understanding of how particularly Black fathers.
Do I think I consider myself an exception? I think in an era sort of way.
Okay, explain.
Because I am surrounded by present fathers.
Yes,
so
I think that's the
So I'm always cognizant of the era in which I am sort of talking on. I think the eras of, like I'm saying, like people were born 1950s, 60s, 70s. Yeah, it's very touchy there. But I'm also looking at the economy at the time. We're also looking at the legal systems at the time. I don't think a lot of the men during that time had the privilege of and also having the tools and access to information the way we currently have access to information. This is apartheid. These are, do you want to survive or do you want to have? Pick a struggle, So it was, and I think that's what, and also I'm also thinking of Ahmed, like the work environment at that time.
Yes, no, 100%.
A boss who's coming down at you and you are, hammered at work and you are having to constantly shield this thing that is coming at you, and coming home and looking for softness is very hard to kind of move, and you were spending the majority of your time at work. So I think it definitely had an influence on that generation's psychology, that generation's way of navigating. And also work, town planning was so that the townships are here, work is here. It would make sense for you to spend a lot of the time here and away from home. Who's raising the kids? So a lot of times they did not have what the mothers have access to on a day-to-day basis. Like I was talking about the Russian doll effect, that I had access to my kids from literally the labor ward. They had access to their kids. How much time did they have access to those kids? So it informed how it is they relate to their kids, how it is that they communicate to their kids, and also how the kids relate to them. Stranger man comes once in a while. Who is this man? Ubaba is the dad. So I think now we're a lot privileged, man, that we have so much more access to these kids.
I think what makes it an exception for me is that I have the privilege of having access to so many men and hearing so many stories of men who are now in this era who and for valid reasons sometimes because they, I guess, are using what they had because their fathers would be the guys you're talking about now, right? And then there would be more you who, even though now with all the information and all the access and all and being able to have, like, to see the kid from the labor ward, are struggling to kind of get out of the mom, there's the mom, and the mom is the nurturer, and the mom does all the things of, oh, the baby's crying. Like I don't know I can't say that on like the list of the fathers that I know who are present in that they're in the home, right? The kids see them all the time, that they would be able to tell me the distinction of their children's cry, right? In terms of like, oh, this one is because they need a nappy change, this one. And I've had like friends of mine where we've kind of chatted and they were talking about their kids and they were like, hey, the moment uthi yaqala nje, send them to the mom because why, you know, but like people my own age and also very well educated men around our age and yours who still kind of feel that the father role is primarily just that provision thing that like, you've got a house, you've got a roof, I'm paying for school fees and I even take you to school, things like that, you know, but why am I changing nappies? Why am I dressing you? Why am I bathing you? A man doesn't bathe, you know, doesn't bathe a child and all of that. That's what makes me see it as see you as an exception. And even just like looking at what, like we'll have these conversations a lot on social media and there's this term of like single mothers but who are married, like they're single, and that it's only now that it's being like the women are kind of pushing back, but I'm also seeing that a lot of the men, when we're having the conversations, they kind of get it, but there's also like a confusion of, it's like the rules of the game changed and no one prepared. Like what's going on? You know, which is why I think conversations like this are so important. And I'm trying to figure out, how do you get out of that? Like as the man who's like, no, but this is, I must just provide. Now you also want me to do this, you know?
You know, and maybe the thing is, it's very tricky to throw a generic blanket over it, right? Because I can also think of, I mean, certain instances where, like you're saying, you know, the single mother who's like a single parent, but she's married. You know, maybe you would even ask yourself, like, what are his movements? You know, he's coming from, if she's a stay-at-home mom, then it would make sense that he would feel like, but why am I doing that and this? Versus if both of them are working, you know, and maybe then you're going into the structure of the marriage itself. Like, how do we communicate? What do we expect from one another? How is it that we can compromise in order for us to meet these needs? But then for you to meet these needs, you need to be also informed. What is it that you're going to be contributing when you're then taking care of the kids? What are you not doing? Ask the kids firstly. Ask the kids. I think the kids will always tell you what it is they need from you as a dad or as a parent. You know, and you know, taking care is a very tricky thing, because who sets the standard of what having been taken care of means now? Like if I'm being told by my partner or the mothers of my kids, or hey, this kid is not being taken care of. If you're talking about provision, sure. But I think caregiving is something that the kid can tell me that I'm either slacking off on or doing too much on.
Well, I think that's good and well where your kid is at a point where they can tell you. Right? I think for me, I see it as so we had a conversation with this one guy who said he's like he's a very traditional Xhosa man, and him and his wife have 7 kids together, which is a lot for this day, for this economy, first of all. But anyway, that's there. And he said for the last 2, I think the last 2 were twins, the wife, there were some complications, but the babies were fine, and she had to stay
in hospital.
She had to stay in hospital, and he was able to take them home. But even when they went home together, eventually, he says it was so, like he could see she was in so much pain, like doing the smallest things was so difficult, and just like her getting up and whatnot. And he's like, he remembers asking himself like, am I really gonna let this person struggle just because of like I'm not supposed to change the nappies? Like, am I gonna let her do this on her own? And then he was like, okay, so then he realized, okay, let me just do it.
Yeah.
And he says those two, they're now a little bit more grown up. He's the closest to them.
Yeah.
Because he's like, he was with them from day one, like knows their facial expressions, the whole thing, and they are daddy's girls. And he's like, he wished he had known the same for the others, but he only started really getting actively involved in having like informing a relationship really, like what he has now, when they were like toddler, around 5 and whatnot, and he could have conversations. And I've heard a lot of men say, this other lady came over to our house and she had just had a kid with her husband, and she said her husband said something along the lines of, oh, he's just waiting for them to become at least 5 or 4.
Only then will I know what
he
to
will,
do.
you know. So for me, I think when I say, I think it's weird that we place it as a taking care rather than a building a kinship and with this thing that came, that you made. You made this person out of you know. And I think I'm not so much in, because the taking care in terms of you're doing the nappies, you're doing you're doing is what the baby needs, but there is an element of building a relationship from that. And I think men lose out on getting to know their children and their kids getting to know them when they decide that that part is not for them.
Yeah. Look, you know, the I think a lot of times we say taking care because I could sit here and we could sit together and we could have conversations about what taking care and also building a connection. But until we start finding ourselves in circumstances that help us portray or exhibit this care. Like if right now I say, I care about you and I care about you. Oh, great, you care about me. But if someone walks in through that door with a knife and I put myself in front of you, I'm expressing and I'm showing you this care. Like it's going into your subconscious. Oh, this is the level at which it's able to go, right? Like example of like the bathing of the kid, right? You are showing them that you care, but you are expressing in this is how I want to handle you. This is how I want to, and also there's an interaction that's happening there of like, no, this is how I don't like my hair being combed. I like being brushed. I don't like this cold lotion that you're using. I like Vaseline, you know. These are the things I'm going back to when it comes to my child, the youngest. And these are the conversations I have with him, you know. But that's how I get to know him because he's also developing. We're constantly developing at any rate, right? So I think those instances of expression of care, that's where we build in this kinship. That's where the connection is happening, to the point where if in the future anybody asks me anything about my kids, I can say, even when we describe people, I think we describe them in relation to. We never just say, Sbo, she's a great person, hard work ethic. This is the ways in which, you know, so we need to have those things, but it's always in relation to. So I think that's where also with the fathers as well, they, like you're right, he got to lose out on so much, but then later on, he got to see what he is at, what he's privy to have access to if he were to just simply show up around them and also interact with them in these things that they are doing that they need taken care of. Then I'm going to say, oh, I know the twins better than I know the first 5 because I was there from the building block.
What do you think the hindrance is for like men that kind of stops them from showing up to in like the full extent of the whole thing? Because I mean, ultimately it's a trial and error, right? In the sense that you're saying now that your kids can talk, they can say like, this I like, this I don't like, but there's still the intrinsics that you absolutely must do, right? That are just what is needed, regardless of whatever, like if your kid was like, I don't want to see you for 10 years, obviously that could never happen. But what do you think are some of, as a man, who has access mostly to present dads, but maybe also maybe not present dad, what do you think some of the hindrances are?
Look, it's a smorgasbord of a lot of things. I'll tell you, and this is, because also we live in Disclaimerville. Yeah. So
I know.
This is not to say this is purely on the women, So just want to say that and put it out there. But from the conversations I've had, and a lot of the men that I have counseled, it has been that their partner becomes a hindrance, right? Where even with the present and dedicated fathers, there is always this back and forth of someone jaded, someone then wants to use the child as a weapon, and then it becomes a mess. I personally, even myself, have gone through versions of that, right? One. Two, I think also I can take it back to the men themselves in being accountable for not also having done a lot of work on themselves. I think I can definitely say I did a lot of work on myself. I can definitely say even the men that I'm referring to, I'm seeing a trend of them having taken time to do work on themselves. Whether you're meditating, whether you're a devout Christian, whether there are principles that you follow. There is a guideline, man, that you feel set you in a way that always brings you back to overriding your emotions with also emotional regulation. I think that's one of the things that people really downplay is how a situation could go two ways simply based on how it is you regulate your emotions, And I think that's the one thing that I can bring back to the men and say a lot of men aren't doing work on themselves. And you want to know how it is you can do work on yourself? Read. Ask yourself. Literally, you could go on ChatGPT right now and say, as a man who is a father, how do I do work on myself? You would get this information, because I think we need to be accountable to the fact that we have access to information now. I can't say no. I wasn't rich enough to have a psychologist to inform me on how it is I can work on myself. But find a book. We all read Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now and The New Earth, and we all, I did. I watched Oprah. I was thinking, I meant in a sense, yes, we all have access to the information, but I meant, for me to have even known of Eckhart Tolle is because I was watching Oprah. So I'm just saying I'm also an exception in that sense that I used to watch Oprah, but these were pools from which I could gather information. And also, if you're on Spotify and you have access to it, there's the Parents Club. They literally have book every it's like a 5-minute unpacking of parental tools. So they just give you books that you can read. And so if you are, you want to make a difference in your child's life, make the effort. The same way when you got the job that you got now, you made an effort to learn about that company, to show up for that interview and get the job. Why would you not put in the same effort towards your kid?
What did you learn about yourself when you were doing the work that helped you show up better for your children?
I think I learned that I need to shut the world out as much as possible on the perception it has on me as a man. And I need to curate how it is I want my kids to experience me as their dad.
Sure.
Because I think a lot of the things that we are moving with are informed by external forces, and of course there's the nature of what it is we grew up exposed to, what it is we feel is permissible, what it is we feel this is the way that we can treat our kids. And I was like, no, that's not how I want my kids to experience me. For the I think only now with the last bond that my kids start calling me the dad. but generally they call me by my first name. And I was so proud of that because I got to feel that they have access to me, not the role.
Sure. Wait, how do you get there? So you made the decision that you didn't want your kids to call you dad?
No, that's the thing. It wasn't.
It just happened.
I didn't say don't call me.
Yeah.
It just happened.
You wanted to show up in a way where.
Yes, and I didn't hush it when they like Mutle, and I was like, yes, and I think it really did do something on their psychology of this person. And I think when I come across to them as well, I come across to them as this person, as not as this role that is, and it does take. I've been learning the difference between honesty and transparency, right? Honesty is me giving you the information that you are asking of me. So, hey, where are you going? I'm going to work. Transparency is I'm going to work and I'm going to take a bit of a detour and get, this is me volunteering information that is pertaining to this thing, but is not something you would ask of me.
Yeah.
And I think I've been a lot more transparent with my kids. And that has informed how it is they respond to me, because they're like, oh, but also he's a human being, beyond the act, beyond the thing. He's this person that also needs to be considered, because I also consider them that way. They're not kids. And I think we dehumanize a lot of times our kids because, go there, do that, and like, no, but how do you usher them to go away because we're having adult conversations? Don't say, hey, big boy, we're having a bit of a conversation right now. Could you please go and play with your friends? Not shush them away, So those are the things that I've always been, I've become aware of because of the ways in which I learned about myself. And but I really think it requires time, man. It requires time. It requires effort. And also it requires you being honest about the nature of the brain, because the brain does get bored of the things that your kid is saying. The brain does want to shut down when your kid repeats the same thing or wants to watch the same movie over and over again. But it also requires effort for you to be just as interested as the first time they watch Cocomelon or Bluey, and to sit there with them. And sometimes you learn something because, I'll give you an example of something. It looks simple, but I was like, I will take time for that. In the mornings when I was preparing my son to go to school, I'm clearing up after the whirlwind of having gotten him ready for school. And as I'm doing this, I'm like, okay, let me get a bit of a bite to eat. And he comes to me and says, Dad, can you come and sit with me? I'm like, but I still got the things to do. It's like, no, please come and sit with me, And I'm like, you're eating. What are you going to do? I am going to sit there and I could do all these things, Yes, And he, that's all he wanted. And I sat on the chair and he ate, and for him, it was a thing that he wanted at the time. And then I started having, I'm like, hey, why do you want me to sit here and watch you eat? And he's like, because I like you. And I like being around you. And I think, it blew me out of my, but there's the things that we need to do in order for us to be, and he's like, no, I want to be around you. And for me, that's enough. And I think those are the things that we overlook. Like another parent would have, I don't have time for that. I've got all these things that I need to do. And I can also the exception of me as well. What also has really amplified that is that I lost a brother and he had kids. And every time I'm always looking at this one moment that I stop and I sit down, could be a memory he has. If I were to pass away and say, there was a thing that my dad used to do, he'd sit down when I was eating breakfast. And I was like, it's just a moment. And when I was looking at my nieces and the things they go over are things my brother overlooked. Not to say he was flippant, but those are things where he fetched his kid from school. That was a big thing for them. Like, getting into the car, huddling into the car. That was him. I'm picking up the kids and I'm taking them home. So I think we really overlook what could be a precious memory now that we have access to it. So I'm always treating everything now with that mindset of, this could be a precious memory for him one day.
How how do dads, this sounds like such a stupid question, but really it isn't, get their kids to like them, like enough to say, like, come sit with me? And I say this as someone who felt at ease when my parents were not around.
I was literally having this conversation recently, and I think it's a prevalent experience of our parents. Like when there's a sound the gate makes. Everybody knows the sound of the gate, and everybody knows
like they're back.
Yeah, they're back. God damn it, And also even if they pass to the gate without you hearing the gate, it's the footsteps. Like different people's footsteps. Like that's my dad and that's my mom's footsteps. Look, I can speak on
for you.
For me, what I've seen really, really work. I think it was really approaching these people as people I want to take care of as soon as possible and as often as possible, and someone might dismiss this, but I'll give an example of the bathing thing. So we are formed in water, and then we are born into this world first, even though it's very rough when they do that, but they bathe us in water. And then the first bath that you take is going back into this thing that was comfortable and it was warm. And that's why we make sure that the water is warm. It mimics the amniotic fluid, right? So now imagine you are being immersed in that repeatedly by this man. And then in this comfortable state, you are looking up at this thing that's like bathing you and taking care of this vessel that you've now been introduced into, and you're still making sense of it, but there's this person who's taking care of this vessel for you. And as you're growing, like for the first 3 years, this person is constantly showing up and taking care of this vessel. Like subconsciously, you associate this person with care. You're like, that person, I all I ever see is like, I'm constant. And now outside of that, you are learning this kid. You are learning what it is they like, how do you cool them down when they then maybe you take them out the bathtub and they start crying. You showing up constantly is also giving you confidence. A lot of guys start having the lack of confidence towards taking care of their kids. And also kids, remember, they're really nonverbal cues, like from the jump. So now if I look like I'm not sure, and also the mom also is reinforcing this, like, and now you're like, you know what, take care of it. I don't know. I don't want to do it, So now they're reading this nonverbal, this one is the one that's safe and is sure, and this one, you got chewed off. And now they have this thing, because I really don't downplay what our neural circuitry is downloading, what our neural circuitry is locking in as information when we are at base level nonverbal cues, and I'm just reading without the words. I don't downplay that. And I'm thinking that's the best opportunity between the ages of 1 and 7. Show up as much as possible for bath time. Start there, and you will start learning also what are the new words that she's learned. Now it's gone from mama to gaga to hey, what is that? And you start, you see them, and you then become a lot more also interested in this thing. Oh, this person is a whole human being that I'm privy to, that is forming in front of my eyes. So I think that's been my hack. I can honestly say that. Learning them as close as possible has been through bath time. And then also what is happening outside of that. Oh, the clothes that you need, you don't have enough clothes, we need to buy you these. So you are really seeing what it takes to take care of this person. So yeah, that's
sure. So good. But I was thinking about, there's this whole thing now on like gentle parenting, which I think I would call it just more conscious parenting, which is just really just being there, really seeing your kids, letting them see you, and seeing them as not kids, like you said, but like a full human being. You were one of my first introductions to that back, back in the day. And I remember And I don't even know if you knew that you were gentle parenting.
I
don't think.
Someone said it recently in a podcast I was being interviewed. He's like, yes, gentle parenting. I'm like, what? Teach me this new frame. So what is that? Yeah.
But you were talking about your daughter and how the one time she was in the bathroom and I think she was playing with
lotion.
I don't know if it was lotion or Q-Tex or lotion or one of the things.
Yeah.
And nail polish, and then I think some of it spilled, but she wasn't allowing you to come into the room, or I think it spilled, but something went wrong somewhere.
Yes.
And then I think you came in and kind of like asked, okay, what's going on? And she seemed like a little bit apprehensive, like she didn't know, am I gonna get into trouble? What's going on? And I think in the end you ended up playing together and putting the nail polish together and just saying, oh, and next time just call me.
Yes, I remember that.
Yeah. And what it was such a aha moment for me when you were talking about it. But what informed that, in the sense that like discipline is such a difficult thing for parents.
It's like, tough over there. It is. And that's what I was talking about, the effort.
Yeah,
it really takes effort for you to, and before effort, it then leads back to regulation. I did a lot of meditation. I did a lot of meditation, and I still do. And what meditation does to you is, before the impulse, you get to rise into the awareness and look at this thing. If I say this, let's play it out. And it becomes a lot more instinctive the more you do meditation, right? And what I've always seen that people respond most positively to is involvement. So if your kid does something wrong, involve them in cleaning the mess. So now they're learning, this is why I'm avoiding it. I see, if as tricky as this might sound, my kid found a lighter and he burned the curtain. And now I'm from work, I work night shift, come back in the morning and I crash. So the grandmother's in the house, and so he took this lighter and he burned the curtain just a bit, So now, obviously, when I'm like, I'm looking at the curtains. When I wake up, I'm opening the curtains and I'm seeing like the little burn mark, yeah. And I ask him, what happened here? And I can see, because we learned from bathing and I know his nonverbal cues, and I'm like, did you do it? And he's like, yeah, I did it, And I'm like, thank you so much for telling me. That was brave of you to tell me, because I'm sure you were thinking that you're gonna be in trouble, Like he's like, we are. Oh, okay. I'm being seen as another human being who would react in the way that I just did. So like, he's in this with me, I'm like, yeah. Next time, don't do that, big boy, because you're gonna get hurt. Now, what if it had burned the whole thing, So now, but he's already seen like, it's him and I facing the problem, not me being the problem. And he's on the other side and he's coming down at me. The next time my son does anything wrong or thinks about doing something wrong, he's a lot more at ease to involve me in it and be like, hey, I'm trying to figure out, how do we use this lighter? And I'm like, and I think a lot of times we used to hide from our parents because we already see, this is how it's going to turn out. If I burn the curtain, I must figure out how to either buy new curtains or now you've cut the curtain run away from home, and these are it's small building blocks like that inform the things we will bring to our parents when you grow older. Because if you couldn't bring a burn curtain to your parent when you were a kid, because these are the things that, remember, like, it's in our subconscious.
Yeah.
When I'm an adult, I don't want to tell my parents that, hey, there was a situation that happened, and then I don't know how to turn to my dad. And now you're even far worse is, I'm struggling with the things of depression. I'm struggling with the way in which this depression shows up. I'm struggling with being an alcoholic. Who do I turn to? This is a problem. My parents, hey, they're going to come down at me. I don't want to turn to them. So I want to build that at the foundation, to the point where, something as sensitive as the first time my kid had her first period. You know, she was sleeping with my mother and she got up and she came to me and she's like, "The dad, I think I just had my period." And I was like, this child overlooked a whole woman who's lying next to her and felt, this is the person I want to tell first. And I was like, oh, okay. And then we figured it out and then got sanitary pads. And it was figured, but she was like, I want to talk to you about it, you know? And these are the things I'm like, oh man, I also, because I think I'm also getting a replenished experience or a revised experience of how it is these building blocks are served in the future, you know? So I'm confident in my fathering. I'm confident in the things that I'm doing because I'm seeing the effects it has on their character, on how it is they care, how it is they carry themselves, how respectful that they are. And even through all of this, I've never hit my kids.
Let's talk about that.
I've never hit my kids.
Why?
You know? They're dehumanizing. What does a child know? Shut up. Imagine being hit while being told to keep quiet. As an adult right now, being hit with a whip and being told to keep quiet.
What if it's just a little smack on the
bum? No. Why are we smacking on the bum?
Because they don't listen.
Because you feel like that will reset the machine, it will reset it, you know? And I'm thinking, what is the softer way of coming at that? What other alternatives do I have? And in this world that has billions of people, you are telling me there's no alternative method of discipline? And that has not been seen before as effective? I would rather try that than hit them. Because I can imagine now, if another man, while I'm talking to the end, I'm not getting their point, they're like, hi man, lalela. What?
But someone would say like, it's just a child, like you're an adult.
That's where it for me, it always gets scary. It's just the child. It's not just the child. Because these are the people that are gonna come into the future and say, we never stop being children. My grandmother's 98. My mother is she's 65 next year. My grandmother and my mother, when you see them, she's a child to this woman. My grandmother's very healthy, it's beautiful, like experience that I've had to have of this adult being parented. And because as much as they are parenting, and I'm seeing like, no, this is still a child. The body might have changed, but I'm like, in here, it's still the same wiring that we came up with. She still gets jealous. And, you giving more attention to my sisters than you're giving me. And I'm like, oh, these are the things that are real, the same way it is. And I'm like, I don't want to dismiss a little pet as it's just a child. I don't know what informs, what that informs when it comes to the adult that they're turning into. And I don't want to take risks with that. So I would rather avoid it. I would rather read up on ways in which we can manage this in a less physically violent way. And also, because I see them as humans before they're just kids, I struggle to see how I'd accept that from someone else towards me. Why am I accepting that with me treating them that way? Because hey, we were belted, man. There was belts. They were, go choose a belt.
But what do you say to people who say, we are disrespectful of like, and I don't think we're respectful, we're just like
we're
people pleasers and we're afraid. But somebody who says like, we're so respectful because we were beaten up. We, our parents, there were boundaries and we didn't just speak to them anyhow. Like you're talking about your kids calling you Mutle. Like that's disrespectful. You're going to have disrespectful kids. What's your response to that?
Look, I think I can, in a cocky way, say I'm a living example of what the alternative could breed. Because I'm living it. I'm saying that you don't know because that's all you have access to. Because, because I'm an adult and my parents beat me, this is the way. It's that, there's a story of this kid who sees their mother cooking chicken and she places the chicken, she cuts it into portions and places it in a big pot. And the kids are like, if the pot is big enough for you to fit the chicken in, why don't you just like put chicken as whole, you know? And then she's like, but that's the way your grandmother did it. And then they go to the grandmother and it's like, that's the way my mother did it. And then lucky enough, or maybe even if they reach to the grandmother says, no, the reason I cut it in portions is because I had a small pot. And your mother now does it because it's just the thing we do.
Yeah.
I'm always like, no, it's not just the thing we do. You might have been brought up that way, but I don't think that's the only way we can raise our kids. And we have examples. We have white examples also. We can even go that far and say, we have white people who have said, I've never hit my kids. I disciplined them. Yes, I took away, privileges and I put them in the naughty corner if I needed to, but I never hit my kids. And here, they've turned out quite fine, And I think that's the thing that I'm also, I don't know, man. I'm invested in investigating that how is there an alternative way, and I'm seeing it working. My kid is doing great at school. My kids are doing great at school. They're in the top 10s. And I'm like, I've never had to beat them and force them. But in the instance where we saw the grades are going down, we figured out ways. Do you want to go to tutoring? Do you want us to do more work? Okay, let's do less TV. We started figuring, but we were talking to them.
Yeah.
Not, come, pick a belt. yo, pick a belt.
Pick it yourself.
Pick it yourself. Pick the weapon I'm going to unleash physical harm on you with.
Yeah.
If
you were to simplify it for fathers, because I think it's tough all around. I think it's tough for moms. I think it's tough for fathers. What do you think is the recipe, and you can use your own life? What do you think is the recipe for success for being this, like for actually showing up? What kind of work does one need to do to be able to get here where your child is burning curtains and one, they can be honest about it, but like two, you can respond by saying, oh, that was so brave of you. Especially because using that point, this method is not saying that you're going to have a child that doesn't burn curtains.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like they're going to continue to frustrate you. So what does it take to really show up in this way? And what is the work?
I think it keeps circling back to one, it's the work on yourself, but also I think the work on yourself also does require support. I think you had recently there's this guy that I really love who also has a podcast on dad.
Black newborn.
Yes. So you start getting access to info because once you start thinking of things, you start seeing them around you, But I think definitely do the research to, ask your kid right now, if you're listening to this podcast at this time, when it does air, turn around to your kid and ask them, what would you like us to do more of? Just start there. And you'll start seeing this person from a whole new dimension because now you are seeing them from the perspective of how it is they want to experience you. Because a lot of times we assume, just go to this party. But if your kid doesn't like these parties, they just want to go and take a walk. Or and there are things that you have done with your kids that they really love but overlook. Because I ask the same with my kids, and I ask them often, and the things that they come up with, it's not things that I can give to them, but it's things they can do with me, and even if it is things that you can give to them, maybe the process of going to get those things can be something you involve them in, but I think a lot more involvement with the kids, and also in inquiring with them specifically, not the mom, not the uncles, and sitting down with, because then they start saying, oh, you are interested, one. And I think also two is, it's the basics of doing the research. And finding also other fathers who will get you where, who reflect where it is you're trying to get. Sit with them and ask them questions, and then I think those are the best that I've seen have worked for me.
I I think probably the most key thing, and I think it goes for both men and women, is that emotional regulation. Is that you probably aren't going to be able to crack parenting or any really relationship if you can't regulate your own emotions.
Yes.
And if you can't take the time to step back and observe the situation and then choose.
Yes.
Choose a response instead of the response choosing you.
My partner and I have this thing of what you're doing right now, and whether we're having a misalignment, it's always when you are coming at your child, are you trying to move or end up in harmony? So whatever I'm choosing right now, whatever I'm going to be doing right now, whatever I'm going to be saying, is this going to lead us towards harmony quicker? And also as honestly as I can. Because I think a lot of times, actually no. I think there are times where it's okay for you to pretend with your kids. I think a lot of times we want them to, I don't know,
you want to be yourself.
Yes, yeah. It's not gonna always work for you to be yourself. I was watching recently the interview with Nikki Giovanni and Baldwin, right? And Nikki Giovanni is talking about how a man can go to work and pretend to his boss that everything is fine and do the dance and then come home and just be like, this is me, and I was thinking of sometimes we need to pretend at home as well. And I'm not saying don't have an outlet, an instance where you can vent, but sometimes you really do need to be pretentious with your kids to give them this needed response in that moment, because that one moment could set up such a ripple effect of harmful responses they will have in comes to the future, because they're also still formulating how it is they regulate, and they're also learning from you because they're watching. And there are times where I will even say to my kids, I'm like, yo, daddy's really frustrated right now and I'm struggling to show at you in a calm way, because my son is the first to ask you, daddy, you're shouting at me, are you angry at me? And I would need to tell him, no, it's not you actually that I'm angry at. There's this thing that's frustrating me and I'm bringing it out on you and I'm really sorry for doing that. And he's like, oh, okay. And like, can I get a moment please? And then he'll go and he'll play, and then but they're also learning that, because the same way is my daughter having a moment and she's having a meltdown, it's like, yo, do you need a hug? And she's like, yes. And I'm like, do you want to talk about it? She's like, no, I don't want to talk about it right now. Do you need some space? Yes, I need some space right now. Okay, just know that later on we do need to talk about it. So when you've calmed down, we can come back to it, So those are the things that I'm always cognizant of, that as much as we are regulating, we're also teaching them how to regulate. Yeah.
What would you've got 3 children? What have you learned from each one? And it's a tricky one to say what's your favorite thing, but whatever about each one.
From my firstborn Leago, I learned how much can be passed down to a child outside of looks.
Sure.
Naturally. And then I'm seeing so much of myself reflected in him, especially the time he was conceived and the person I was at that time. And I've come to, learn, as I'm learning about genetics, that, that information, we don't just think the information that gets passed down is how it looks. It also gets turned down when it comes to RNA, when it comes to behavioral patterns. So I see myself in him, right? And that's one of the things I've enjoyed about him is how calm he is and how focused he is when it comes to schoolwork, but just in general, when he comes around people, very calm natured. And that's my favorite thing about him. With my daughter, I think it was when I was my most expressive because she's also a Leo, so we're both Leos and we feed off each other. I love how expressive she is. I love how honest, but also in the honesty, how kind she is. I think she's the one person that I've come to sort of be challenged to come out of myself. She really does bring that out of, and also she's a chance taker. I think there's things that she will say to me that I'm like, is that something you should say to a parent? I don't know, you know? What's going on? Yeah, no, like I think she's the one child who has used the word ejaculate. And I was like, wait, what? So now, no, the conversation was just like, no matter how the process of me being conceived required, and I was, and obviously the first thought is like, God, you know, but I was like, but that is the biology of it, you know? It's just like, yeah, but so you ejaculated that. and I love that. What she's picking up is she's also like seeing the chance. She's testing the ground, you know. Can I say this? Yeah. And Ahmed, but it was something that we laughed at, and we make that banter. But I can still say, even in the same breath, and she's just as respectful to me. And when I say no, I don't think you should do that, she will say, okay, thank you, I won't do that. You know, she doesn't fight back. She doesn't have an attitude. She's not disrespectful in any way. You know, so I've loved that those are the things that she brings out in me. My last born is his name is Moya. And I have this understanding of him in the sense that I choose to see him as different forms of wind. Like there's a gust when he is everywhere up and down. And then there's a breeze where he wants nurturing and softness and wants me to sit with him. And before we go to sleep, he wants me to read a bedtime story with him, you know. So I've really enjoyed seeing the softness of him and also how much he's informing me of how soft all his siblings are as well, and I need to come at them in that same way. He's a lot more expressive, and I really enjoyed that about him as well. So I think these are the things I've come to really, really take from them, and they inform how it is I view myself, and I'm now separating. I've come to separate myself less from the role and I'm showing up a lot more as myself with them. Yeah, I think, and then in general as well, when I'm meeting people, I rarely mask. I show up as myself because I'm thinking if my kids can accept the self that I am, you know, why can't I show up in most of my roles? Of course, the corporate world requires that you fix your mask, you know. But I think I'm a lot more honest and forthcoming because of them. Yeah.
And what is it that you would like them to remember about you or know from you?
That my love for them, I think it's the most instinctive version of love I've ever gotten access to. I think a lot of times, like, you know, romantic settings, I think we learn about each other and then it blooms into I love these characteristics. And then I think they came out as a blob. It's like, but I was always like, you know, and I get it, there's the nature aspect of it. But I think I spent all of their lives trying to put that into action. And I think that's the one thing I hope and I pray that they always know, like, even in the instances where I failed as a provider, I failed in the ways in which they would have needed me to show up in the moment. It was not from lack of trying, because I am constantly just moving from that space of wanting to make sure that they're okay. Yeah. I think that's the one thing I need them to know, is that I've functioned from that instinctive love. Yeah.
And your extraordinary take on fatherhood, what do you think is like the most important aspect of it? What is your belief about being a father?
We have our finger on the pulse of what our kids will one day look back on. Like, right, we are formulating it. Like, we are creating it right now. And we have right now the opportunity to mold it it and change it, versus the future version of us who will look back and say, yo, I can't do anything about it now. And I think if you're constantly looking at it from that stance, you will see how important it is for you to show up, how important it is for you to come across to your kids with care, because you still have an opportunity for you to fix that right now. Once they're grown up, we can't come back here and say, hey, well, yes, we could, we could do psychology sessions, we could do psychiatry, we could pump them up with drugs, but really we won't have access to this once they're grown. So move with that. Think about the moment where you're about to be snappy. Think about, oh man, like, what could this spell? What could be the ripple effect of this? What could the repetitive, even that thing of when I go to get my kids, there's excitement. And I'm like, I want that to be the thing, man, of there isn't the anxiousness we were talking about of like, when your parents are coming up, the tensing. I want them to be just as excited at seeing me, even in adulthood, So that's what I'm constantly aware of, is that I have my finger on the pulse, and I can change, and I can mold this blood flow into turning into something that is amazing when they're grown up.
And not like, I wish I hadn't, or I wish.
Yes, I don't want to have, because I wish. We don't have genes.
And it's such a tricky one, because in all my relationships with my parents, my mom and my dad, there's so much of that of I wish. Like, there's so much of I wish from my dad, there's so much of I wish from my mom, and the interesting thing is, I have so much compassion for it, but I can't go back. There's even a lack of want. I don't have a desire to go back. I don't have a desire for the closeness anymore. I don't have a desire for the hugs that I didn't get. I don't have a desire for the warmth and the love. And now that even if they find themselves at a place where they can give it, the desire from me is gone, which is such a tricky place to be in. And I think that's so important what you said, of just like understanding that the moment is gonna pass, and you're not gonna be able to go back and just shift and change.
My mother was telling me that recently, of how the grandparent-child relationship happens, in how now she's appreciating all the ways in which there were things that she missed with us, and now they get to replay it with the grandchildren, And I was like, oof. That's actually something that I should also look at. And that's what informed about, we have our finger on the pulse, is that I have access to that. Yes, she doesn't have the things that I was like, you didn't give me as many hugs as I wanted.
Whatever.
And I am drowning my kids in hugs. I'm drowning my kids in affection. I'm drowning my kids in the masculine experience of what care feels like, And I'm happy that they have that as something, that's basic, that my daughter can be confused, like, no, I've never been hit, and her friends are like, what do you mean you've never been hit? And how do you navigate your dad? And she's like, no, we talk things out, and she was also like taken back, like, oh, there's other children
get hit.
That's just, it's normal, So I'm very privileged to have, and I think because I'm such a student, I'm looking at how much the parenting never stops, because I'm privy to my parent, to my grandparent. I'm privy also to the things that I've gone through as an adult, and I'm also privy to the juxtaposition between a present father and a present dad and an absent father. I'm privy to all these layers, and I can navigate now having that in the back of my mind and say, if I'm showing up for my kids, if I can't, they best believe like somewhere out there, Dragon is dead. Like, I tried, yeah.
That's so good. Thank you so much.
Absolute pleasure.
There's so much to unpack on this, because I think people genuinely do struggle, but I think you've simplified it in the sense that, like, with this last point that you made, that like you have your finger on the pulse, and either I think I saw something about like if you don't work on your trauma or whatever, like it's gonna raise your children or whatever. So either you do the work now, or it just kind of all goes to whatever. And I think if you can't do the work, just don't have the children. How about that? Don't spread.
It's so tough because I was thinking on my way here is a lot of kids happen because of sex. And biology, yes, but they are a byproduct, not the intention.
Yes.
So a lot of times, like, there's a kid. I was just trying to do this part.
I didn't want that. Yes, so
and
that part leads to that.
Yeah, and I think we can still say to those who haven't had them, please be intentional. But then if you do have them, please be just a lot more intentional in creating that bond, because we really, if we are looking at it, this is what we're sending into the future to fix the world, and we can't change the world in a lifetime, but we can change it through generations, and this is what we're throwing into that pond, So I would rather concentrate on that. I can't change the world now in my little lifetime, but I can influence my kids into having an effect on the world.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. I mean, if you've stayed this long, you must have gotten something from it. I loved every second. We'll probably do a part 2. There's so many stories, but sorry to cut you off.
Just before you end, I just want to say thank you so much. For such a platform. I think a lot more platforms like this are needed. And also, I think because of your understanding of me, and also because what I'm plugged into like spreads to a larger group of people who are men, people that I've sat in at family courts with. I'm seeing how important such information is, even to the men who are like, but where do I start? So thank you so much. I want to thank you just for myself, because this is such a memory box for my kids, so that one day they'll be like, this is what he said about us, But also, I'm also just thinking of the way in which this helps anybody who's looking in on it. That is highly important to me. And also it paints a picture that I've always wanted my kids to peer into. And because I could be talking to my kids are great, but they don't know that, So I want them to hear how it is I speak of them, but also I want them to hear of my experience of them. And it's been quite an amazing experience. So I want to thank you so much for having this platform, for inviting me, and also for constructing your questions the way you did. I think it really helped me unpack a lot more versus someone who would have been like, say something about dads. I think that's really, really.
What do you think about dads?
What do you think about dads, fathers? So, Ahmed, like I read, these podcasts, I think you can hear when someone is really, really dedicated. And also, I just want to wish you, Ahmed, the level of success that reflects the amount of work you've put into yourself. And I mean, this is a byproduct of a lot of work that you're doing on the side. That is also like purely a reflection of you. I'm just wishing you like a whole bunch of success. May you be successful in everything that you come in contact with.
Does the universe do
do you hear?
Do the right thing? No, isiZulu sithi izandla zedlula ikhanda, which is just like the greatest expression of thank you. And I think like if one dad or father who wants to move to being a dad watches this and actually like goes, I'm going to start doing bath time because of that guy that sat there and said that's how you build a relationship. And please do children.
Even just write the importance of bathing your kids as a father. The articles that will pop up, psychologically, it is sound information about how influential it is.
I heard you talking about the one time, like your son now, your oldest is in matric, and how you refused to stop kissing his face.
Yes. I mean, I respect him in certain instances around his friends, but hugs and kisses are, and I've loved that he's constantly still embraced it.
Yeah.
And he hugs with heart, not because we must do the thing and pet the back.
My kind of hug.
But Ahmed, he shows up, and I love that. I love that, and also because I love how it breaks the stereotype that he's gonna meet in the world with men don't do that, because we've relegated masculinity to being this rigid thing. Also, check out Jason Wilson, black guy, bold, gray beard. He does amazing work when it comes to expanding on what the masculine is able to access. Of how he makes a comparison between how he felt that the men have been limited to 12 crayons versus the 36 when it comes to how diverse we are. And he's like, what if he could give that to his kids? And if you're stuck at 12, it's great the fact that you're acknowledging that it's 12, but start there and expand yourself. So, Ahmed, but just do the research and you will find.
Just come back.
Yeah.
I think that's just come back, and then we will do part 2. Don't say that, because it took 5 years to get you here.
No.
Yes, but it's fine. It's fine. No, it's fine.
Listen.
In the next 5 years.
The point is, I am very much willing to.
In the next 5 years, I really would like to go into that masculine.
Yes, and what would be great as well is maybe we could do a recap of it in the next 5. If you want to do the 5 years, it's fine.
Yeah.
Because maybe you'll still be here as well.
I will.
Yes. No, I mean, you could also have expanded into talk show host. Who knows?
No, then we'll do it there. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. But also, it will be an interesting experience to have it. Maybe sound clips of conversations I'm having with the kids, of you send me questions that you would like them to actually respond, and we expand on that.
You could invite them.
I would be honored. I know they would jump. It would need regulation, but
she might say ejaculation on camera.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Needs regulation.
Let's do it.
Yes.
For all 3 of them actually.
Yeah. I think it will be quite interesting to see that. Yeah.
I think so. Freeman wants to kill me. So thank you so much for tuning in. Please do let us know what you thought of today's episode. I really hope it impacted you as much as it did me. Until next time, goodbye.
Bye-bye.